Today is February 24th, 2011, and we are interviewing Harold Peterson from Alta, Iowa, at the Communications Center at Buena Vista University. Mr. Peterson was born on May 30th, 1924, making him 86 years old. My name is Stephanie Puhrmann, and I will be the interviewer along with Lindsey Peterson.
We just have a few questions for you before we get started.
Okay.
Your branch of service?
Infantry.
Infantry. What was your rank?
Corporal.
And where did you serve at?
South Pacific, Philippines, New Guinea.
All right. Thank you. What year when did you find out that you were going to be in the war?
In 44 I went.
Okay. Now, were you drafted?
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
Well, I was ready to go.
You were?
Yeah, I was ready to go.
Why did you want to go? Did you want to fight for your country?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have went in 42. I graduated in 42, but my dad had a bad heart. He was a farmer. So I was deferred for 2 years to help him farm. And then in 44, I had a brother graduated, so then he took over and I left.
Okay. Where did you do your training at?
Camp Hood, Texas.
What did you think of training?
Oh, it was different, but it went all right.
Yeah. What was a typical day for you?
Down there?
Yes.
Well, we had a little bit of everything, you know. We took bayonet and rifle firing and hand grenades. And I had quite an experience with hand grenades down there.
Did you?
Are you supposed to keep talking or not?
Whatever you want.
Well, see, we had a guy there. He'd been in the Army about 9 days longer than I was. We called him a rag corporal. He had a corporal stripe with a band on it, you know. And there's about 4 or 5 of us left, the last bunch in the group, and he going to show us, you know, how to do it, you know. See, so he said, just as long as you hold this lever down, you can pull the pin out, well, you're all right. And you are. I knew that because my father was in World War I. They started push the pin back in. He couldn't do it, so he let it kind of relax his hand, and the lever flew off. So then the hand grenade was live. So what does he do? Throw it straight up in the air and come right down between us. But then we took off. We've only been in the Army about 4 weeks, but we knew enough to get out of there. So we took off, and I hit the dirt. And of course, I was smart. I had 2 hand grenades, you know, and they always show them. You put them on your belt, so I hung them on my belt like a big shot. And I hit the dirt. It bent the levers, but that was it. So then, I don't know what happened to him or anything, but we was safe.
Good.
Maybe I ain't supposed to talk like that.
No, that's great. That's great. When did you head over to Japan?
Went overseas. I left New Year's Eve, 1944.
Okay. What was it like heading over there?
Oh, that's all right. We didn't go to Japan, though. Then we went to, I don't know where we first went down to New Guinea. I rode that old Dutch tub for 44 days before I got off.
Okay.
And it was an old Dutch tub. That's the worst days you ever put in on a ship like that.
Yeah. What did you do to pass the time?
We played cards. There was 4 of us, and we played cards every day.
Did you get good?
I don't think so.
So were you in New Guinea first?
We went to New Guinea, but I never got off the ship.
Okay.
We were at Finch Haven and New Hollanda, but we never got off the ship.
Okay.
We stayed in the harbor for about a month, or not a month, about a week. And then we left for go north again, and I landed in Leyte, Philippines.
Do you remember arriving at your first duty station?
Do I remember what?
Arriving at your first duty station?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What was that like?
That's the first time I got on land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great. We were issued a Art 3 rifle in the States, and we carried it over there and turned it in. That's all we did. But we left at Leyte the same day I landed there on another ship. And then we went to Luzon, Lingayen Gulf.
And what was that like?
Oh, that was all right. It was just like it. We climbed down the cargo net and got in them landing crafts and went to shore.
What was your job, or what was your assignment?
I was a Jeep driver, the best job in the whole Army. I drove a Jeep. The way I got that, see, I was a replacement also. And the captain asked me, he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "From Iowa." Okay. He said, "What'd you do?" I said, "I was a farmer." Okay. He said, "Then you know machinery and motors and stuff," and so he said, "There's your Jeep." But the Jeep had a hole right through the windshield into the back of the seat. So I knew why I was getting it. And he said, he sent the sergeant out, he said, and he said, "You take him down and see if there's a working on a bamboo grove." So we drove down there and there was nobody there. I think it was just a test drive to see, if I could drive, which I could. But I drove a Jeep then all the time, and that was the best job there was. Because you get to see a lot of country. They shoot at you, but you get to go anyway. They're going to shoot at you anyway, so.
Can you tell me what that was like, getting shot at in the Jeep?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think it was so bad. I mean, I didn't like it. The first time, well, not the first time, but one thing I really remember was I was taking some engineers up to, we just made a landing, beachhead landing, and we was taking engineers up to look for landmines, and of course, I'm just like a Jeep driver. I don't know where to go. They're supposed to tell me. They said, "Follow that trail," so I did. All of a sudden, a machine gun opened up. We run right into the Jap lines. But as luck would have it, there was a cement wall there, a burial wall, where they buried, you slid the coffins in, and it's about 9 feet tall, so I just hurry up and backed up behind there. And then, of course, I was safe. And I told them engineers, that this is as far as I'm going. You can go further, you want to crawl up that ditch, and they did. But I don't think they did anything. And they left one man. He said, "You stay here with the driver so he can protect the Jeep." And as soon as they were gone, he said, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." I said, "You can't go leave your buddies," but he said, "Let's go." But we didn't.
That sounds like a great experience. Did you experience any other great things while driving the Jeep?
Oh, yeah.
Could you tell us about those?
Well, I don't know. I took some ammunition up one evening. Over there, you never went anywhere after dark. As soon as it got dark, you got in the foxhole and stayed there, no matter what. So it was just about dark, and they called for bazooka ammunition. So I said, "I'll take it up there." So I took it up to the lines, and sure enough, a Jap mortar shell come in, and I jumps out of the Jeep and gets into the ditch, and somebody hollers out, "Get that damn Jeep out of here." I said, "You get your damn ammunition out of here, and I'll go." And they didn't. I went.
Before you went overseas, before you saw any combat, what did you think you were going to experience? What did you think of the Japanese?
Well, at that time, they were just like an animal. You were ready to shoot them. Now I ain't so sure what I was right or not, but then you were. You shot them. And they gave you a gun. That's what it was for, the rifle. Of course, I had a Tommy gun, but they issued that, and you're supposed to shoot Japs with it.
What was it like being shot at and in combat?
Well, you kept your head down as best you could. In that same time, when I backed that Jeep up, I thought, well, I better look and see if they're sending out a patrol. The Japs, I thought, they're going to look around that edge of that cement wall. They're going to be watching that. So I climbed up a tree. There was one little tree there, and I climbed up that. And I looked over the top, and as soon as I looked over the top, bang, a bullet hit right beside me. That lieutenant, Jap lieutenant or something, he was thinking the same thing I was. He's going to climb that tree. So I never looked again. I thought it might be a better shot next time.
Did you see any more combat?
Oh,
combat
yeah.
stories you'd like to tell us?
I made a beachhead landing. I got one combat I don't remember. I don't remember one thing about it, but it took about 3 weeks, and I just went blank. I can't remember. I still don't know what happened. And I never told anybody, because I thought you're a coward. And then after about 30 years afterwards, I got to reading about how men, blanked it out, and they didn't say nothing. And then I told my wife. She's the first one.
Where was that at that you blanked out?
It was south of Manila, and was working to the Batangas Harbor. As far as I'm concerned, we went west. I don't know whether that was right or not, but I thought it was going west.
How did you keep in contact with your family and friends back home?
Well, it isn't like now. We didn't have cell phones. I got a grandson, he was over in Iraq and stuff, and he called home all the time, I mean, but then we had just sent letters, that's all. And when I left at New Year's Eve in '44, I didn't get a mail till the middle of May from home, because I kept moving, changing, and I went to the hospital and found the mail caught out, had about 150 letters in one bundle.
I bet that was an exciting day.
Took a while to read them.
I bet so.
Did you bring anything home for your family or friends?
Well,
Any
yes,
souvenirs?
some. I know.
Yeah.
You couldn't. There was different then. You didn't send much stuff home. You didn't. And then they sent me cookies, but I never got them because they just didn't. And I can see it now. How could they bring all those cookies and your hometown paper is supposed to come, and they never. I never got any. Never got one because and I can see it now. They couldn't be hauling all that stuff over there. I got one cookie package once, and that was empty. Somebody ate it.
You said your father was in World War I.
Yes.
How do you think your experience compared with your father's?
Well, as he told it sounded just like the same. He said he was machine gunned, over he went over in France, and everything's about the same. I had a bachelor brother that stayed. His brother was a bachelor, and he stayed with my dad, and he was in World War I, and I was in World War II, and my brother was in Korea. He was the only one that got wounded. He got wounded.
Can you tell us about some of your most memorable experiences or things that stick out to you?
Well, I don't. They all stick out. I mean, I don't have anything special, I guess.
Are there any stories in particular that you'd like to tell us?
Pardon?
Are there any stories in particular that you'd like to tell us? You said there are a few that stick out. Could you?
Well, just I can't remember that battle, and the beachhead landing was I got to blow my nose. Is that all right on this thing?
Oh yeah.
The beachhead landing was in first day of April, 1945, and that was also Easter Sunday. And we hit the beach at 10 o'clock. And I'll never forget that. But it was unopposed. They were back a ways, the Japs, so they didn't. That night, the few of us drivers drove up the ways, and then we made a build. We got to make a circle and protect yourself, and perimeter they called it. And about, I don't know, midnight or 1 o'clock, there was an awful noise. We thought, what in the world? Oh, it made a noise. We thought, now what? And it was a rocket that the Japs had shot off. The only rocket that was ever shot off in World War II that they know of. And I had to be the one to hear it.
What was your role in the landings?
I drove a Jeep off of LST, pulled a trailer. I was the first one off, and it happened to be there, and I started up. They said go up that way, and I went and got stuck. I got a picture in that book magazine. There's 3 Jeeps lined up, and then they're going the other way. I'm the lead Jeep, but I got out of there anyway. And as we moved to the town of Legazpi, where we went and hit the highway, they had Navy A-20s, bombers, or fighter planes kind of, but they would come right down over us and machine gun, and they'd drop a parachute bomb and go up. That was right ahead of us.
Could you tell us about your unit? Were there any guys from around here, around this area, that were in your unit?
Well, when I went overseas, there was a fellow from Maria. His name was Peterson too. And we got to Camp Stoneman, which is a ship out stay, and I went to the hospital. And I didn't get out for 5, 6 days, and when I did, the outfit was leaving. And I wanted to go along with him because that's my buddies, but they said, no, the orders ain't cut, so you can't go. So he went overseas. His ship was sunk, and he never come home. And the reason I went to the hospital was, I say, because I'm a buddy from up here town, Alda, not Alda, but north of Alda. He was there, my buddy, and we went to, that evening we said we was going to see what's going on tomorrow. They had it on the bulletin board. We went and looked and said 10-mile hike. We said, we don't want to go that. That's no good. So we was kind of getting wise to the ways of the Army. So we said, look on sick call. He had a football knee, they call it, you know. So I went on sick call, and I had a terrible cold, and I had 100 and some fever, so they put me right in the hospital. And he never did go overseas because of his football knee. So he never did go over there. And I consider that saved my life. That 10-mile hike I didn't want to go on. But this Peterson, see, he never came back. The ship was sunk. And I'd been on that ship.
What was it like for you to hear about that?
Well, I didn't like it. I mean, that was no good. But once you get over there and get started, you lose a lot of buddies, you know, and you just kind of, it just, you know, you hate it, but that happens. You lose them.
Can you tell us more about your unit? Were there many casualties in your unit?
Oh, yeah, I got pictures in that magazine. We got a picture there that shows the cemetery. That one at the beachhead, that battle, that was quite a bunch of people there. We lost a lot of them.
And you said you were never wounded, correct?
No.
Were you ever a prisoner of war?
No. Thank heavens. I never would have been a prisoner of war over there because that's worse. I'd soon have been shot.
What did you hear about the war in Germany?
Well, when you're over there, you don't hear nothing. You don't even know what the rest of your outfit's doing, really. You just at your little spot, and that's all you know. We never got no news. We didn't know radios. If nobody said anything, we didn't know nothing. So we never really heard until maybe months afterwards.
How did you feel towards the end of the war?
Well, I was awful glad it ended. I'll tell you, I was with the combat team, just one regiment, and we were supposed to go in 2 days ahead of the invasion of Japan to knock out a radar station. And I wasn't looking forward to that. They said that they could have hauled the survivors home on a Piper Cub, which is one man. I said, I'll miss the guys. But we didn't have to land. I was sure glad of that. Now, I had a sister. She said they should never drop them atomic bombs. That was the wrong thing, you know. It killed the women and children. And I said, that's true, but that's better than I had to do it, because they told us that if we landed in Japan, the women are out and everybody's going to be out there to get you. You had to shoot them. And I didn't want to do that. It was bad enough to shoot the men.
Did you ever doubt that we would win the war?
No, I knew we wouldn't.
Why did you know? How did you know that?
Well, just something you just know. I knew it was going to win. And I knew I was coming home. A lot of men don't, they say, I ain't coming home, and they don't. But I knew I was going to make it.
So what was it like when you found out that you were going home?
Well, I didn't go home until after Japan. I mean, I went to Japan. And then they had the point system. Of course, I was single, and I didn't have enough points, so I had to stay. The outfit went home or broke up and went home, and I had to stay. Then we went into Tokyo and lived in the docks. And I was supposed to be a mechanic. But I know one thing, that we drove little tractors on the docks there, and underneath the seat there was a box just big enough to hold a case of beer. We found that out. I seen cases of beer stacked up like bales of hay. So it was kind of nice there. And I drove around down Main Street of Tokyo and all over, but when we drove there then, there was no car, Japs didn't have anything. All I ever met was Army stuff. Except when I drove for the military government for a while and went to in Utsunomiya was the capital of that one prefecture, and I drove for the agricultural guy. And we'd go up this Capitol building, and that's where the town trucks are standing. They burned charcoal. They'd come up there and fire them up, and it'd smoke like a heck, But that's the only ones you met. There was nobody on the main street. They call it Ginza in Tokyo, We never seen anybody.
When you were in combat, how long would it be until you were relieved?
Well, we never were relieved. We always, you defeated the man the army you was against. That's the way it went over there. When we landed, it went like that Manila deal. We pushed the Japs and killed them all, or whatever we did, until we got to the bay. And then they was going to make the invasion, beachhead landing, and I wasn't supposed to go. They always left some home as a reserve, see. But the guy that was another driver, his Jeep was already on there, and he said he got sick. So they said, all right, you're going to go. So I went. I had to take over.
What was your most proud moment during your service?
Well, the happiest moment was when I got to come home. That was it. But I really, I was happy all the time.
Were you awarded any medals?
I got some.
Do you know how and where you earned them?
No. Most of them you just got because you went overseas, I guess. I don't know. My granddaughter put them all in a folder or picture holder, and they're sitting there at home on the chest.
How were the relationships between you and the local people when you were there?
We got along good with both the Filipinos and the Japanese. Although, when the war was over, we always carried our weapons up. We go to these little villages in the Philippines. You always carried your weapon. And when the war was over, they said you don't have to carry your weapon anymore. But then the Filipinos started to waylay us, and they started to, take after us. And then we had to take our weapons along again. But in Japan, we had no trouble. I didn't. Of course, when I had a weapon holder on my Jeep, and I hung my Tommy gun on there and put it in the ship. And when I got over, I just left it on the Jeep. And when I got over there, they took my Jeep out of the hold and set it down. I looked, and my Tommy gun was gone. The sailors had stolen it. So I landed in Japan without a weapon. But then I got it back because there was no way they could get it off the ship,
What did you think of General MacArthur?
Dug out, Doug. That's what I thought. Didn't have to think much about it, When I was in Tokyo, he was in Tokyo, headquarters, and you could go down and see him come out, and I never went down and see him. I didn't give it. He never come and seen me, so I wasn't going to go see him.
I know you said that you didn't get a lot of news or information, but where were you when you heard about D-Day?
We was in a rest camp, and we was training. We just started to train to go to Japan. We made one boat ride up the coast of the way, made a practice run on the land, and then they heard it. And to tell you the truth, they celebrated here, something terrible, and I can't remember that us guys ever. We never celebrated. We just was relieved, I guess, and that's it. There was no celebration or nothing.
During your occupation in Japan, how were you treated by the Japanese? What do you think they thought of the Americans being there?
Very, very good. They would treat us nice. Really the Japanese people are nice people. It's just the warlords and that was fighting. That they're the ones fighting. The people were wonderful. They were wonderful. I could tell you that when we come into a town when I first got there, we'd be the first Americans. I'd drive an officer down. He always went to the police station. You never seen anybody on the streets. You saw a deserted town. I went back to this one town again in a couple of weeks. I couldn't drive down the street because people were all out there getting, and I got. You get little kids, they'd follow you, they'd be 8, 9, to me it looked like 8, 9 years old. They might have some of them have a little baby on their back, and you stop someplace, they just crowd you, And I got a bunch of cards one time. I remember in Utsunomiya, some little boy, I guess, or girl, I don't know which was, give me a picture postcard, just a card, and I always carried gum or candy of some kind. I don't have that candy, and I give this boy, a girl, a piece of candy. Kids all scattered. Pretty soon they're all back, and they all had a card. I got a whole bunch of them. Must have 30, 40 of them. They all give it to me.
Did you have enough candy for everyone?
I always had gum or something, But they didn't like to have their picture taken. I was going to take a picture of the kids around my Jeep, and they just take off.
When did you find out you were going to go back home?
Well, it was after I got in Tokyo a while, then they told me I was going to, then they said, you got enough points, you can go home. So I was going to get going on a ship, and they brought some troops over, and the troops tore up the ship, so we had to wait another week or so before they get the ship fixed up again. And so that's when I knew it. And when I started out of the camp, I was the only one going from this time, And a guy was driving the Jeep with me in it, and we got started out, and the lieutenant hollered, "Wait, wait, wait," on the loudspeaker. And I thought, oh, now what? So we backed up a little bit, and pretty soon they started playing Sentimental Journey. You can go now, he said. So that's my favorite song.
What did you think of General Cunningham?
I never knew him. No, I never. That general, I don't know.
Is there any other experiences you'd like to tell us about? Anything that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. You know any more? Huh?
What about the shell that hit your hospital tent?
About, when they shelled the hospital? Yeah, see, I got sent to the hospital a little while after we made the beachhead landing. And it was a field hospital, just like MASH. You've probably seen that program. And the first night I was there, because I was only there one night, but first night I was there, the Japs shelled the hospital. And I was standing out there, and my dad always told me, he said, when you hear a shell whistle that's going overhead, not to worry about it. But I could hear this one whistle, and I thought to myself, that's going to be close. So I jumped in they had foxholes dug around the tents, and I jumped in the foxhole, and the shell lit right there, and I got a picture of it in there. And it threw dirt all over me and stuff, but it was a dud. It never blew up. So I was lucky there. Next morning, they flew me out. I don't know what I had. I really don't, but who cared when you're getting out of the battle? And they flew me to Manila, put me on a hospital ship, and we went clear down there to New Guinea, to a general hospital. So I spent about a month and a half. I guess I had hepatitis and I had malaria. And when they put me on that plane that morning, the C-47, they had to push it clear back into the palm trees to get it run just on the grass strip. And when I got on the plane, well, there was a photographer on there. I don't know what he was taking pictures. He took a picture. There's nurses on there, and the nurse would take my pulse and temperature, and he was taking pictures of that. I wish I'd have told him to send me a picture so I could see it. I don't know whether it was a magazine or an army or what he was, but they were taking pictures. But I've been across the equator 4 times. 3 times with a boat, 1 time with an airplane.
What did you do after the war when you got back to the States?
Went to Puhrmann. Right away. First thing I did, I bought a H International tractor. I bought war bonds and saved money, and everything. And when I got home, first thing I did was buy an H International and a plow. And I drove right down Main Street to Alva. I was so proud.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't know. I can't think now. I got a lot of things, but I don't know. The best train, back in those days, you rode the train all the time. And the best train ride I had was from Seattle to Fort Leavenworth. That's when I come home. Because then, every time the train stopped, you'd jump off and get a pop or an ice cream cone or something, because you hadn't had that. That tasted good. And I remember we landed in Seattle. And they always give you a big dinner. The Army does there, when you come back. So I went to dinner, and it surprised me that they had German prisoners were waiting, in there to help, And I thought, gosh, darn, there I was over there in the jungle, and them Germans are here having a big time. But anyway, I carried my tray, and we don't get milk, so I had 2 little bottles of milk. And I don't know, one of them fell off and busted. But that one German come and said, "Here, well, I'll take care of it, and he took care of it, and he cleaned it all up and brought me another bottle. So I didn't feel so bad then.
So you said the food was good when you got back here. What was it like when you were overseas? Did
Pardon?
you like the food?
Pardon?
When you were overseas,
Yeah.
did you like the food? Or what was the food like?
No. Don't talk Spam to me. We had Spam 3 times a day. Dehydrated potatoes and dehydrated eggs. And we had that 3 times a day. And you couldn't blame the cooks, because they tried everything, to fix it up. But we ate Spam, Spam, Spam. And I come home and we never had Spam. Finally, about 30 years after, maybe 40 years afterward, I told the wife, I said, buy a little can of Spam, see if I can. I couldn't eat it. They couldn't do it. But that's what we ate. That's all we had. And then they issued you cigarettes then. We were issued every so often, they issued you a few packets of cigarettes. I didn't smoke, so I sold them black market. That was some of the money helped buy the Jeep or the tractor. I was always going to buy a Jeep when I got home, but I never did. Never did. They wouldn't allow that. And then all of a sudden, after the war was over, they gave us about a week or so. We could we could send it home if you wanted to. See, you had something. So I had somebody make me a wooden box. I pulled the Philippines and I put it in there and they sent it home. That's where. But that's the only about time you could send anything home was then. And I don't know what happened, whether the whole army did that or just my outfit or what. But anyway, there was that 1 week or so you could send this home. Otherwise, you couldn't.
How did you get it? Did you pick it up off the battlefield,
yeah.
or was it a?
It's a pretty dangerous looking thing, ain't it? You know, they'd get that bayonet in, and then they'd start drinking sake all night, and then in the morning they'd come in bonsai charge with that bayonet, you know. And it was scary. But I'm pretty proud I got it home. And the saber is the same way. All officers carried a saber, and this had a wonderful handle on it, but it just fell off. I keep these things in the basement, which is pretty damp and everything. You know, and they ain't exactly it's quite an ugly machine. I can't see to get it in there.
I got it. Were these ones that you just found, or were these ones that you kind of picked up along the way?
Yeah, pick up along the way.
I like all my fingers.
I got wife got a compass there from zero. But I didn't take it off of zero. When we hit Japan, now that's a compass, and you can. It actually works yet. You look and see, it actually works. But when we hit Utsunomiya, Japan, we went to an airplane factory, and they didn't make it like we do. It's a big building, great big long building, and they push the airplanes, I think, along the way, and they'd add stuff. And in the middle was all the parts, and I picked up that compass and brought it home. I had to smuggle it home. And that's one thing I was a little teed off about when I came home, was that I carried a duffel bag clear full of everything. I had my helmet in it and my mess kits and all that stuff. Carried it clear down to Leavenworth. We got off the train and they said, we lined up and they said, now leave your duffel bag and we're going to march off. So we left it. When I come back, it was about that big. That full. I didn't have nothing. They took everything away from me. And I thought, gosh darn it, if I could fight for the country, they could surely give me the clothes that I carried all the way from Japan. But they didn't. I would have liked to have a helmet and mess kit. You know, in World War II, or I, my dad he got his steel helmet home. We fed the barn cats in in that helmet. Put milk in it after we milked the cows. And we kept that till it finally rusted away. And here's the book. This is my outfit. Bushmasters, 158th, 1 regiment. And in here, I don't know, Ma, you got to find it, I can't. There's a picture of that cemetery. It's right in front of the book. Is that a cemetery? Yeah. And I'm the second one in the front row. Now, right now, that don't mean a thing to me. I can't remember that, but my children and my grandchildren like to take this book to school, you know, and see show. And I knew it then. I can remember that I was the second one in the front row for that memorial. And all these crosses were one that was killed in that landing. Oh, there's other. Oh, there's a sheet in there that shows where the shell hit the hospital. See, my outfit put out a paper every, yeah, there's the, sheet, and it shows them digging up the shell on that, and,
You want to hold that back up?
huh?
You want to hold that back up and show that again? And then talk about it there?
Well, they shelled it, and right, I was in that tent, only I was in the other end, but I laid in the foxhole right here in the front corner, and it threw dirt all over me and everything. And another strange thing was they had a couple of Jap wounded men right over here a little ways in the tent, and they had some guards, and when that shell came in, they all run and jumped in the foxhole and left their guns with the Japs. And that made us all kind of mad. We said, I don't mind you jumping in the foxhole, but don't leave your gun over there. And a little further over this way was a latrine. But at night, we didn't get to go to the latrine. They didn't allow that. Because like I said, everything that's after dark, anything that moved was shot. I don't care if it was a water buffalo or what, it was shot. So you just laid in your hole. If you was wounded, you laid in your hole. You had to go to the bathroom, you laid in your hole. That's all there was to it.
Can you tell us about the binoculars, sir? Is there a story that goes with these?
Yeah, they're I can't see anymore, but they're military binoculars, and they got a range in there, range finder, so you can, they can watch where the shells landed, and this I had to sneak out too because that wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed to bring that home. But but I can't see it anymore whether it's still in there or what.
Sir, can you tell us about your uniform and what?
Well, you see, that wasn't very big when I was in the Army. And I don't know why we saved it. I can't believe that I still got it, but I still do, and now I'm proud of it. But when you first came home, why, you didn't, nobody cared about anything. But I was, and there's the most important thing I got on there is a combat badge. I'm proud of that I was in combat. And no matter how many ribbons you get, they always put the combat badge on top. That's always on the top. The stars are battles, and the arrowhead is a beachhead landing. And these stripes are for one stripe for every 6 months overseas. So I was overseas 18 months. And this is a 6th Army. And this is my Bushmaster patch, which was, nobody ever had. Well, our outfit was the only one that had that. And I was pretty proud of our outfit.
Sir, what company were you with? Do you remember?
Headquarters Company, 1st Battalion.
Can you tell us what this one down here means? 'Cause I've never seen that one before.
That's a unit citation.
Okay. What's this one? What's this one up here?
The duck, that's a wounded duck. That shows you was discharged. That's what they called a wounded duck. And he was discharged.
Is that the one you were happiest to get?
Yeah. 14th of May, 1946. Fort Leavenworth. I got a picture of the little church I was discharged from.